Hello friends, welcome to day one of revisions on Deviants.
I can reach for a well-worn book to give me an escape.
But it is February 1st, so it kind of works out that day one of revisions are starting on the 1st of a month. I wanted to start at the beginning of January, didn't work out. I'm sorry, this lighting is terrible. We'll fix it. But if you've been paying attention to things that have been going on with me, I've had to send my laptop away to get fixed, and she's back. And of course, because the problem was with the framing of the screen, I no longer have decals on my laptop, which is upsetting a little bit because the ones that I had on it were still new. They'd only been on it for a few months and they weren't eroding at all, so they were still pristine, and so that kind of sucks. And it was the big Stormlight symbol with two little Windrunner stickers in the corner. But when my boyfriend got me that Stormlight one, he also got me a bunch of other Cosmere decals, and then I also have just so many stickers from when I did the NaNoWriMo Advent Calendar stuff with Haley and Casey. So I might try to figure out what we're doing with the laptop today now that we're diving back into revisions. I've technically already started. I rewrote the prologue the other night because the prologue is very short. It's 1,000 words. So I went ahead and did that. Not anything really changed in it. I just kind of fixed up grammar issues, and I added a few extra lines of dialogue to flesh out a little bit of the conversation that's been having there. But I've also already made the decision to delete chapter 1 and start the book on chapter 2 instead. So now chapter 2 becomes chapter 1, and then the information that you learn in chapter 1 about a character, I'm gonna have to find new places to intersperse that because we're not starting there. So I went through last night, reread chapter 1, and then made a list of the things that you learn about the character there that I'm gonna have to insert in a different place now. And I'm about to dive in. Casey might be joining me. She might not, I'm not sure. But yeah. So I'm about to start revisions. It's February 1st. It's late-ish. I mean, it's not late. It's 6 p.m. So I'm starting late. I'm really tired, so I don't actually know how much I'm gonna get through today. Last night, Casey and I did actually go through, and one thing I've never done is canonize locations. And again, this is not set in our world. For the beta reader of mine who was so convinced that I needed things to be more realistic to our world because it's set in our world when it's not. Hello, superpowers aren't real. It's based on our world. It's yeah, it's the United States and it's this, but different towns and places and this forest that I've made up. It's these aren't real places. So it's yeah, and there's advanced technology and stuff. So it's it's based on our world, yes. But it's not a one-for-one. It's not. So I've never canonized locations of anything, and in every draft where I write it, I would just put place in parentheses when a place is mentioned because I just didn't want to deal with it. And last night we canonized several locations. There's a few more things I have to figure out, just places that we don't even see much of but are mentioned and stuff along the way. So a little bit more of that to do, but we did that last night. I have a map. What I did is I took a map of the United States, and then I put little pins in it in my computer, I edited a picture and put little pins in the places, and then have a list. The pins are different colors, and I have a list matching the colors of what's what. So that's gonna be helpful. First time ever canonized locations, so be proud of me. Yeah, so we're gonna dive in, and this is the start. I don't know how much of this I'm gonna show you guys, but I just decided that I wanted to vlog it. Because I do writing vlogs during November, and then I just do my writing videos where it's normally I just sit down and just talk about specific topics. Lately I've been doing all the videos on beta readers and stuff, but I figured I wanted to do some vlogs during the revising process because you haven't really seen a ton of that, or really any of that, because I feel all of my writing videos during the revising process were just sitting down and talking about stuff and not doing a vlog of the process. So I don't know if I'm gonna vlog the entire process, if it's gonna be segments that you're gonna see throughout the year. I'm hoping to finish this draft before November. I'm hoping to have this done and ready to query by November, and that'll also probably determine what I work on for NaNoWriMo in November, because this last November I wrote book 3 and most of book 4 in the series, but now that I'm redoing book 1 where a lot of changes are going to be made, this is the draft where plot changes and big things will change. After this draft, it's it's gonna be line edits and small things. This is the draft where big things can change. So it's I don't know that I want to nano go and finish book 4 and start writing book 5 when I'm making big changes in book 1, because that obviously can have a domino effect. So it's very likely that for NaNoWriMo I'm gonna end up doing draft 2 of book 2 after finishing draft 2 of book 1, if I'm satisfied with where I get with it. I just had another beta reader finish, and it's my worst beta experience ever. They shit on me the entire time without actually giving useful feedback, like whatsoever. And I'm just really glad that they're done, so I don't have to deal with them anymore. Yeah, and then I got another new beta reader. I've literally only had, besides Casey, and as you know, Casey doesn't count because Casey like helps me write stuff, and she's very engrossed in the process with me. So her opinion is very biased, so like she can't give me an unbiased opinion. Oh, she loves it, but can't count that. So right now, aside from Casey, I've had 2 people finish, one of whom has given me 4 out of 5 stars, loved it for the most part, but is like, oh, obviously like little things need to be fixed, but like they had no big qualms, 4 out of 5 stars. This other beta reader gave me 2 stars and shit on it consistently. They completely hated everything. So I'm like, I have, literally it's 2 ends of the spectrum. So it's like I need more people to finish it to like have a consensus, you know? But I'm starting revisions now with only those 2 finished, so we'll see. But hopefully some of my beta readers will finish this soon. We'll see. Anyways, this was a very long clip, but I'm going to start these revisions today, and I'm going to try to vlog the process. I don't know how like frequently I'm going to update you guys, but it's going to be the course of several months. So you're going to probably, if I can keep this up, you're going to get several vlogs over the course. I don't know where this one will end, but welcome to the revising process for draft 2 of Deviants by me. I'll see you guys later. Bye! I feel fine and normal. This is this is my current setup. This is one beta reader stock, one beta reader stock where I'm writing the new book, and another beta reader stock. I feel like a normal person. I already have a headache. I haven't even started yet, guys. It's been over an hour since I sat down to start this. I look like such a mess. I just finished rewriting chapter 2. And I'm at 7,320 words for the draft. I haven't actually checked that yet at all. I have not looked at like my manuscript target. Like I've seen the total in the chapters that I'm writing, but I normally have my project targets open in Scrivener, which is, I'll show you, it's, hang on, let me move Casey away. It's this here. So you get Scrivener, like you can have this open and you can like set a session target to see like how much you're writing in a single session, and then like your total target. I haven't actually set them to anything, but this is the first time I actually opened it to see like what I'm on for the full draft. Thus far, first time I've opened my session targets to even like see where I'm at. I've been struggling since I started the vlog. I like immediately got stuck. I should turn off the music. I immediately got stuck. But I think I figured it out after many a struggle. So I have done the prologue, which is mostly the same, like very few edits on the prologue. Then I've done chapter 1, which is also mostly the same with like a few edits, but it's not the same chapter 1 that was in the original draft. It's what was the beginning of chapter 2 in the original draft has now been moved to chapter 1. So original chapter 1 got completely deleted, and now the beginning of chapter 2 turned into chapter 1, and it's pretty short. It's like slightly less than 2,000 words, and I think once I kind of go back through it and like fill in like descriptions and things like that that I still suck at, and like really work to like shape up the chapter, it'll get about 2,000 words, which is like good. I mean, the prologue's like a little over 1,000, and I'm fine with that being short, but I don't want to have any chapters that are like shorter than 2,000 words. But I don't know, like in draft 1 I have like a range. The longest chapter is like 8,000 something, and the shortest chapter is like 1,000 something, so consistency is a problem. And I got really better at that when I was redoing part 2 last year, so I'm gonna try to like get a little more consistent throughout the whole book. So I'm thinking like I want like a 2,000 to like 5,000 range, except for like in big climactic-y moments and stuff where like it's fine if the chapter runs a little longer. So chapter 1, slightly less than 2,000, but I think I'll get it up to 2,000. It's like 1,830 right now. Chapter 2 is now at 4,353, but original chapter 2 was like 5,500, so it's come down. And chapter 3, actually, I'm at the point where writing chapter 3 is going to line up with where chapter 3 in the old version started. I'm back like on the same track, but I'm adding things in that were pulled from chapter 1 that got deleted, so like it's gonna change a little bit. I don't think it's gonna change a lot though, but we'll see. But there we have it. I'm struggling so much today. I also did some really fun stuff. Let me see if I can find this so I can show you real quick. Like, I have been, one of the things that like I haven't done in like any version of this book is like canonize locations and things like that, which I think I talked about in the beginning of this clip, but I don't actually remember the beginning of this vlog. But so I've been going through and doing that, and like I went through and like I have like a map where I've like pinned things, and then I have like the locations all written down and matching it, and I realized that like the like, what do we call them? There's these people in my series called wardens, and they're like an advanced, like, they're like police but more advanced. Like they wear like more military gear, and they're everywhere, and they're kind of basically like taking over the police's job, basically, is kind of what they're doing. They're like an advanced task force to keep the peace and all this stuff, and they're basically like stormtroopers, both in the sense that they're just everywhere and that they suck. At least in the beginning. But I've never really like canonized a lot of stuff about them because I don't want to. I'm going through and I've been like saving, like making a list on a map, like in Google Maps, so I could like have an interactive map to look at, and like picking locations where like there's like a heavy occupation of like wardens in like these cities specifically. And so this is what I've got so far, which is pretty exciting. The red one is the same as the others. It's just the last one that I pinned, so it's like red instead of the blue ones, but like, you can like, you know, you can zoom in here and like see all the different places I've picked, which is mostly just like the big main cities and stuff like that. I'm probably gonna add more. This was just to start with, and I think I have like 80 something on here already. As you can see, there's a couple up in Canada, and if you move the map, there's 2 over here in the UK as well, because the wardens are spreading. But yeah, they're all over the States, so that's what I've got so far. So that's fun that I'm like actually doing like all the work on like those little details that I've just been putting off for forever. Feels nice to like get some things set in stone. Like I have like real locations and things for some stuff, so that's good. So I've done that, and I finished rewriting chapter 2. So there's your update. I'm gonna go die now. Bye. Hello friends, I am back. I don't actually remember what the last thing I updated in this vlog was, but I've not been back on the edits very long, so I assume it was only a few days ago. Today is February 13th. I was gone all day. We went to see some friends to watch the Super Bowl, who we haven't seen in a while, and it was really fun, and I've eaten nothing but pizza today, like 5 times just pizza. So, and I'm on my period, so I'm feeling like super trashed right now. And then also yesterday, last night really, I had a full-on mental breakdown. So let's talk about that for a minute. Right now in the editing process, I've not made a lot of changes. I made one change where I fully cut a chapter at the beginning, and then have kind of been reworking what information you get in that chapter into different spots, and like filling in details where it's like things where it's like I didn't say like a place name because I hadn't figured out where something was yet, and like just like things like that, like where it's not really adding a ton, it's just those small fixes, and then like grammar, punctuation fixes in the new draft. That's pretty much all I've done so far. I'm on chapter 8, and yeah, I had a whole mental breakdown last night because I'm like so stressed out. Obviously, anybody who's edited their own work knows it's so much hard. I mean, like, some people might enjoy the editing process more, but for me it's much harder, I think, than like just spilling out a first draft, which again, very hard to complete a first draft. Y'all saw, if you watched all of my previous, like, you know how long it took me to actually complete the story from beginning to end in like in one shape of a book. It's taken me a long time. I've written so many versions of this book before I was able to actually complete a version of it, and now I'm editing it. Technically, like, if you've been following my writing videos, you would have seen last year I was editing it, and you would think that this is me like editing it again, but really the edits you saw me doing last year were really just kind of making it more book shaped, because it was the original draft. The first half of it was written during NaNoWriMo, So the first half was written in 1 month, and then I didn't touch it for a year. And then the next NaNoWriMo, I wrote the second half. So when I came back to it to do the edits, I was like, oh, I have a completed draft now. But like, both halves were written a year apart, and each half was written in a month. So it was like chaotic. There were so many things where it's like, I wrote it during Nano, so it's like, if I couldn't think of something, I skipped the whole freaking scene and stuff. So there were things, a lot of things I added in the edits that I did over the last year. But mostly it was just kind of like reshaping it so that it was book shaped, you know what I mean? Like a start, a middle, and end kind of situation. That was a little more connected and less disconnected than it was in the original form. This is the first time I'm like properly editing it in like this way that feels like properly doing revisions on it. And it's hard, obviously editing is hard, but I've been so frustrated because of my beta reader situation, and I've done some videos on like the beta process recently, so if you missed those, like I'll link them below, but if you watched those, then you might know. And if you're like in my like writing friend group circles, any of those, then you know I've been having a lot of struggles. I like genuinely think I'm cursed when it comes to beta readers. Not a single one of the many people I've had sign up to beta read has done it right. And I didn't really realize there were right and wrong ways to do it. But now that I've been through the process for nearly a year, I can say that there are. I just like constantly, like, I literally, like when I say I had a mental breakdown last night, like I'm not joking, like I was full on crying. I was just so frustrated because I'm like so stuck in these edits, like I just don't know what to do, you know? And it's like, I've only had 4 beta readers finish it. 2 of whom, by the way, I'm sorry about my sump pump. It's going off and we're like right next to the sump pump because I'm in the basement. Anyways, ignore the sump pump noises, please. 2 of those beta readers, 4 have finished, one of whom is Casey. Casey, you know Casey doesn't count. Like, her opinion, I need other opinions because her opinion is 99% of the time it's the same as mine. And she's so biased, and she knows so many things like out of context of the books. So like, she's not going to notice certain things that like a reader with no previous knowledge of the book is going to be able to pick up on. She can't point those things out because she knows too much. And she's my best friend. There's like so many reasons why her opinion cannot count. But took her 7 months to read the book. Another beta reader recently finished. It took them 10 months. And the other 2 beta readers, complete strangers, found me on Instagram, one of whom, my worst beta experience thus far, and I've had so many people like ghost me, just straight up, like people who are literally friends with me have ghosted me on reading this book, still interact with me on the internet, ghosted me in the form of being a beta reader. It's great. Like, it's not that hard to just be like, hey, I don't think I can do this anymore, I don't have the time, or I'm just like, I'm no longer interested in it. Like, you know, you just say something. It's not that hard yet. I've had so many people ghost me. This beta reader, none of their feedback was like helpful feedback, and all of it was judgmental. Like, a lot of their comments would be literally like a statement, like an observation with nothing on the end of it to be like, oh, you do this thing, maybe you should do this, or I think this, or, you know, this should be any kind of like suggestion beyond this, just the observation. And those observations were like so condescending and judgmental, and I could tell they hated the book. And I wish they would have just been like, you know what, I'm not really vibing with this, and like pulled out, because I literally, like, I can't use any of the feedback they gave me. Reading comprehension from that beta reader, below 0. Like, everybody misses things here and there, but like they missed so many things that are like very obviously on the page. And we're like, what? Like, they got to the end of the book and they were like, was this character black the whole time? And I'm like, the very first description you get of this character is that they have brown skin. Was this character British the whole time? Yes. In the first chapter you meet him, you literally have multiple comments about his accent, and somebody being like, oh, you're British, and him being like, yeah, I am. And just so many things like went over their head. And like, again, all the feedback I got from them like was not anything I can like implement. It wasn't helpful feedback, there was just judgment. So like that was great, but they read it in 2 months. The other person read it in 2 months. Didn't leave me any comments. And I assumed when they first started reading it, I was like, I think they're reading it like on their phone or like on a tablet or something, and it's very hard to like comment that way. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Maybe they're like kind of taking notes as they go, and they're gonna like write me up a big thing like, here's my thoughts when they're done. I was like, I'll take it. I prefer like having comments in the doc so I can see literally where these comments fall on what things, you know? That's so much more helpful when I'm like going through and literally editing like chapter by chapter. But I was like, you know what, I'll take what I can get at this point, because this has been such a fucking struggle. And when they finished it, I didn't even know they were like actively reading it, because again, they weren't commenting on the doc, so I didn't know like they were doing it. They just messaged me and were like, it was great, I loved it. And that was it. I do have like a beta reader survey that I'm giving to people when they finish that asks like specific questions, like, you know, how old are you, what genre do you read in, what genres do you normally read in, and like what would you rate this on a 5-star scale, like what was your favorite moment, what things do you think I need to work on the most, what things do you think I excelled at the most, blah blah blah. Like it's just like probably like 15 questions at most. So I did get like a little bit of information from that beta reader through the survey, but like again, they didn't give me anything. I mean, they loved it, so that was great, but that doesn't help me edit the book. You know? And they finished in 2 months. So it's like 2 strangers, neither of whom was actually helpful as a beta reader, were able to finish my book in 2 months. But people who are literally like friends with me and know how important this is to me and know that I'm actively working on the edits right now are not like making the time for it, and it makes me feel so shitty. Like literally no one gives a shit. And then like when I sit there and like complain about this, because I do, you know, you like to scream your feelings into the void, I'll, you know, see certain ones being like, that's not true, like obviously I care, and it's like, well, you're not showing me that. Most of my active beta readers who technically are reading the book have had it for anywhere between 10 and 11 months. It does not take most people that long to read a book, and these specific people, I know it does not take them that long to read a book. And yeah, like this should take a little longer because like you're reading it critically, you're leaving comments on the doc as you go, but it shouldn't take that long. And I didn't give anyone a deadline when like I started this, because I didn't think it was going to take anyone a year to read the book. So I was like, I'm not doing the revisions until next year, so, and here we are. And so yeah, it just kind of feels so frustrating that like, also all of these beta readers of mine who are taking this long to read it, so much of their feedback is not going, like, they can't tell me how the pacing felt because they're reading it at such an inconsistent pace that like the pacing of the book is not going to compute in any way, because if you're reading 1 chapter in a month and then 3 months later you read 2 chapters and then a month later you read 1, like you can't see the pacing of the book that way. You just can't. You can't. And so they can't tell me that, and that's one of the things I know I need a lot of work on. Like I know the pacing is like very all over the place, but I can't get any feedback on that from anyone. Which is great. And I have like a POV split thing where you have like 4 POVs in the first part of the book. 2 of them are your main POVs, and you get those the most frequently, and then there's one that you get like 3 times. So it's like a secondary POV, but you get it a couple times because it's necessary and it is like a main character, but you don't get a lot of their POV. And then the other one gets introduced a little bit later, and you get a handful of POVs, like 5 maybe. But you mostly have those 2 characters that you're getting the POVs from for part 1. But overall, 4 POVs in part 1. In part 2, you switch to 3 completely different characters. Then you're following them for that whole part. So the first part, you're following this set of characters. Second part, you're following this set of characters, and there's just 3 POVs in the second part. And then in the third part, you kind of see these 2 storylines merge and these characters come together. And I think this is the best way I've structured it so far. But now I'm like rethinking everything, and I know one of my finished beta readers didn't like the POV split thing, or the structure or any of it, the one that just hated my book and was not helpful. The other beta reader that finished in 2 months and didn't tell me anything, they said they liked it. They liked the structure, they liked the POV split, that's what they filled out on the survey, but there was, obviously I don't have more information than that. And then my other beta reader said that they didn't like the POV split, and they wish that like I'd sprinkled all those POVs in together, but that is 7 total POVs, and it feels like too much to like throw on a reader at once, you know? And so like having them split the way that I do, like not a lot, I know not everyone's gonna like the fact that like you're with these characters for a chunk of the book and then you don't see them again for till you get to back to the end. So it's like part 1, this group, part 2, a whole separate group. And so like when you're getting to know this group, you're like, oh, but I was just getting into that group and now I'm with this group. And then at the end, like you see them come together. So like I know not everyone's gonna like that, but I feel like it's easier to like understand the POVs and stuff and like get a handle on it. I don't know. But I know that one beta reader was like, oh, but like they took 10 fucking months to read the book. And so they were like, oh yeah, like by the time I was like reading this part, like I kind of forgot things that were happening like with the other part. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's like an actual problem with the book because you took so long to read it. If somebody was reading this at a more consistent pace, like would that be a problem? I don't know, because no one's fucking reading it at a consistent pace. So I've been so frustrated because like I'm trying so hard to make this book better. I'm planning to query the next this finished draft. When I finish this draft, I'm planning to query it, and my goal is to be done with that before November and to be starting my querying around November. It is February, it's mid-February, and like none of my beta feedback is useful in like the grand scheme of things. I have a lot of helpful beta feedback in terms of like grammar, things like that, but like the overall like pacing and like this POV split situation and like bigger scope things of like looking at the whole book, I'm not really getting feedback on that because no one's doing it right. And it's just really frustrating. And so yeah, I had a bunch of breakdown about it, and I've just talked to you about it for 14 whole minutes. So yeah, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. I was like, oh, it feels like edits are going smoothly. I'm on chapter 7. I've only been doing this for like a week, but it's only going smoothly because I only have so much beta feedback to sift through. Like I barely have any is the thing. I barely have any. And the thing is, one person says, oh, you know, change this, or I don't like this, or this is great. That opinion means absolutely nothing if you can't compare it to others, because it's not telling you what a wider audience is going to think. And again, 10 beta readers isn't going to tell me what every person who maybe reads my book if it gets published is going to think, but having more opinions to then compare. If like I have 10 beta readers and 7 of them point out this thing that they don't like, I know that's something I really need to relook at and try to do something different with. If only 2 people are not liking it, but 8 other people are fine with it and like it, then I maybe don't need to rework it, you know? Like, I need that kind of comparison, and I do not have that, so it's really hard. Yeah, so these are the struggles of editing this book and all of my beta readers not doing things correctly. And again, if you're one of my beta readers and you're watching this, know how much I love you. I do. The ones of you who are my friends. There are a few strangers now. Not to say I don't appreciate you, but I don't know you. The ones of you who are my friends, I do love you, and I do appreciate that you signed up for this, and you are technically still doing it. You're just not doing it in a way that's actually helping me right now. And so that's been really frustrating. I mean, like, literally one of my best friends has been reading this book for me, and she hasn't touched it in 5 months. So it's like, yeah, that's just what I'm dealing with. And so it's like really, really hard. It's like, it feels like I'm doing everything I can to try to do things right, and to make this book better, but like I can only do so much, and I'm just sitting here like waiting and hoping someone's gonna do things correctly, but like it's like already too late for most of my active beta readers are already so far in and have been reading it for almost a year now, and it's like it's not going to be helpful for me and on the bigger scope things, that which is what I really need the most help on, I think. So anyways, I don't think I have a lot of space left on this card, and I've been filming for 16 fucking minutes, so there's that for you. I'll probably do like one more update in this vlog before I put it up. Again, I don't really know. I think maybe what I'm gonna try to do is like monthly vlogs, like 1 a month for this editing process. And we're halfway through February, so I'll probably update you again towards the end of the month, and we'll see how many more breakdowns I have between now and then. Am I surprised I've already had one in the first week? No. Am I surprised I've only had one? A little bit. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye! Hello, friends. It has been a minute since I updated this vlog, I kind of fell off the wagon a bit. My plan for this vlog was to film just throughout February and then cap it off, but I'm now a week into March and I haven't ended the vlog, so I just saw a bug, or I'm hallucinating. Anybody's guess. So I figured I need to edit this vlog and get it up, so I'm gonna film the wrap up for it now. I haven't looked back at the footage. The last thing I remember filming was like a really long, depressing clip of me just ranting about how everything sucks. And that is still the case. However, I've made progress since then. I've made a lot of progress since then. I think the last thing I talked about was like trying to figure out like a new way to structure the book and things like that. And I was like a couple of chapters into part 1 when I started the revisions. I think that's the last update I gave you guys. I was like a little bit into part 1, maybe like halfway into part 1, without knowing what I was doing with the new structure. Good news is I have a new plan for the structure, and it's in motion now. I definitely think it's better, but I don't know if it's like the end all of what I need to do here as far as the structure goes, obviously. But I'm trying it out now, and thankfully Casey is just working her ass off for me. She's been literally, every time I finish like a new chapter or a new like chunk of chapters, I'll give them to her to read again. I say again because she's read the original ones, but instead of just reading the new ones, she's going through and reading them at the same time to compare. So she'll like read a little bit of like, say she's reading chapter 5, she'll read a little bit of chapter 5 and then like read the new chunk and like compare them to see the changes that I've made and like see if it's really working, and then give me her feedback on that, which is a lot of work and I really appreciate it. So shout out to Casey. But yeah, so I had an epiphany one night. Again, shout out to Casey because she just let me ramble at her until we figured this out for, I mean, it was like several days worth of trying to figure this out until we had the big brain moment of figuring out. But the problem was the book was split into 3 parts, but it doesn't actually follow 3-act structure, so it didn't need to be in 3 parts. I just liked the number 3 and it seemed nice and neat and clean. And because you follow one group of characters and then you follow another group of characters and then you see those timelines converge, 3 made sense because it's like 1, 2, 3, you know, easy counting. But because I had the one beta reader who didn't like that, again, like I can have beta readers who tell me they don't like something and they'll suggest like a different way to do it. And like 7 out of 10 times I never actually take the suggestion, but I do take into account the fact that they didn't like the thing, and I try to find a new way to do it that will work. Because a lot of times they'll suggest something that I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. Because originally the beta reader who didn't like that was like, I think you should just sprinkle all the POVs throughout, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. Any agent who reads that with that many POVs, like, no, I would get rejected so fast. I mean, I'm still probably getting rejected so fast, but like that would be a reason for getting rejected so fast. So like I needed a way to ground you in one set of the POVs and ground you in another without overwhelming the reader. But like giving each character enough time to shine, so like when you get to know that character, you're not like confused, you're like, oh, who's this person? And it's in 3rd person, so like it's less confusing. Having multiple POVs in 1st person can be a lot. So it's in 3rd person, there's at least that. So what I've done instead is I've changed it from a 3-part structure to a 5-part structure. And where originally it was like part 1, part 2, part 3, now part 1 is split into 2 parts, part 2 is split into 2 parts, and then part 3 is still now part 5. And I've just kind of moved the puzzle pieces. So it's like first half of part 1, first half of part 2, second half of part 1, second half of part 2, and then all of part 3. So there's less time between, there's like time like away from each character, each group of characters, because that was one of the complaints, was that like, oh, like you spent so much time with these ones and then you spent so much time with these ones and it just felt so imbalanced. And word count wise it was very imbalanced. But we're not going to talk about that right now. So now it's like a smaller chunk with these people, and then you get the second group sooner, but they're still split into their separate groups, and you flash back and forth. So it's, you get the first group, you get the second group, you get the first group, you get the second group, and then you see those timelines converging at the end. And I think it's better. I definitely think it's better. Especially with like how far in I am, but I don't know for sure. But that's where we are. I have actually gotten a few new beta readers. I think 2 new beta readers since my last update. One of them technically signed up a long time ago, but she's officially started. It's another booktuber here on the YouTubes, and she's been great. I'm actually also reading for her, which is the first time anyone's ever actually taken me up on my offer to like for the beta reading to go both ways, because I think at least half, if not most of my beta readers are also writers. So every time someone's volunteered to read for me, I'm like, I can't pay you. This is like, you're volunteering for this. But just know that, like, I will do the same for you. Like, whenever you have something you want beta read, I'm there. And she's the first person who's taken me up on that, so that's been fun. And I've done, like, a small section of her book, and I'm kind of doing that in between doing the parts of my book. Yeah, so she's been pretty good. I have another new one who I don't really know very well from Instagram. It's just been such a trip. But I already had my mental breakdown in this video. Actually, I had several mental breakdowns throughout November because of the stuff, but I'm doing a smidge better right now, I think. Mostly because I don't have a lot of feedback to go off of. I don't have a lot of help right now, aside from like Casey. And most of Casey's opinions are the same as mine. But she has like a great sounding board, so like if we just kind of get the ball rolling and like bouncing ideas around, we'll eventually come up with something that like can work. I had to write 2 new chapters for these characters because like the way I split the sections, I was like, this is a weird spot, and like all this gets moved down, and then it was this whole book is like a puzzle. I'm literally just like reshaping it. It's been a whole headache and a half. And I had to write some new stuff and then trying to like figure out what the fuck to write for them. And again, I shouldn't be adding anything new in because it's too long, but that specific character needed more in that section, so it's like I'm gonna do it now. Obviously, once I finish these rewrites, I'm not done. I'm not like going straight to querying. I'm rewriting it, and then I'm gonna go back through it 1,200 more times before I hit the querying stage, which is also why I'm trying to power through this so quickly. And yeah, so I think by the end of February, I finished part 1 and was like getting ready to start part 2. I'm past that now, but we'll save that for next month's vlog. So I finished part 1, which was 11 chapters. I'm not going to tell you the word count. I don't even know. It was too much. That's all I know. This is too much. In some places I have found, I have been like cutting things, like word count wise, in small ways. Just like combing back through and doing smaller edits and stuff on chapters individually. But like in the grand scheme of things, I'm still way too many. I don't know how to not write too much. I really don't. But that's a story for another time. So there's your update. There's your February revisions update. It's been a ride. I started like right at the beginning of February, and that's where we are now. Yeah, I had like 4 mental breakdowns in that month, I think. Yeah. I don't know. It's just hard. It's just hard. But it's an uphill battle. Next month you'll see me doing more revisions. Probably talking more about the beta readers because I constantly have people falling on and falling off and falling all over. I don't know. And I've also started beginning my actual querying research, so I'll probably talk about some of that next month as well. So stay tuned. Yeah, so if things go to plan, you'll get one of these like writing vlogs every month as I work on revisions, just to give you updates on my progress and how I'm doing and how this is going and stuff. There we go. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already and like this video. If there's any specific things that you would like to know about while I'm working on these rewrites, in the revision process or getting into querying and stuff like that, or with my beta readers, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below and I'll try to get to them in the next video. Also, as far as the actual booktube side of our booktube channel goes, I do have a reading vlog in the works. It's just going real slow, but hopefully that'll come up soon, and then I'll have another Sanderson unboxing once my box arrives, and we're trying. Okay, we're trying. But right now my focus is on the book because again, I'm trying to query in November, and I gotta keep the ball rolling. I can't rest. I can't. So yeah. See you guys next time. Life Before Death Radiance. Bye.